Welcome to Films in Black and White, everybody. Welcome to Films in Black and White, everybody.
Hello.
How are you all feeling? I am rocking the mouth horns today.
Yeah, you
I
are.
think that's what they're called. I'm rocking the mouth horns today because Marcus J. Destin is a busy man and will be joining us later for this.
Yes, he
episode
will.
of Films
He
in Black
is
and White.
going to be here.
But we're excited because we have a special guest for the first portion of this podcast. Someone who has been very relevant to our discussion here. But first, I would love to check in with my friend and my colleague and my co-host, Brian Roush. Brian Roush, how you feeling?
Hello, as your friend and colleague, I'm so happy to be here. We have a great guest. We're also going to do some news today, so I'm feeling good. We've done like 3 movies in a row, so I'm okay for us to talk about some of the things around movies, and then get back to reviewing movies. So feeling good, happy to be here. How about yourself, Doug?
I am doing quite well with everything, and I'm also pleased to announce that Marcus was able to get here shortly after.
I told you he'd be here, folks.
Marcus has this habit. This is the second week of his
it
role as Stone Cold Steve Austin on this particular podcast. It just rolls in, fucks shit up.
That's Stone Cold's music, and then the glass breaks.
Right.
If it means anything, I ran here, and as Drake would say, Poppy's home.
That's okay. That's fine. Okay, good job, Poppy. Way to make it. Marcus, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I was so glad to be here. It was a great Monday. Last Monday was like, this Monday was like, damn, like it's almost too good to be true.
Okay,
so I'm happy.
Fantastic.
Brad.
Gentlemen, we have a guest this week, and I'm going to read her bio before we get into it. And Shannon Cole is the executive director of the Vermilion Cultural Association, which is the nonprofit that owns and operates Vermilion's only movie theater, the Coyote Twin. Shannon was Princess Leia for Halloween in 7th grade.
Love that.
She previously worked as a proofreader for the Navy, where she wrote a non-insignificant amount of fan fiction using her government computer. And she used to attend academic pop culture conferences as a hobby. Amazingly, all of these interests and talents are now integral to her work in support of arts and culture in Verm. Shannon Cole, welcome to Films in Black and White. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be with you.
We are so excited to have you. As I kind of mentioned in our little pre-pro get after it, we talked a little bit about, we're very curious about the insight of running a theater in the midst of a global pandemic. So there.
Yeah, me too.
Time will only tell how that goes. So, But Shannon, we have a fun game that we play on this episode called Catch That Quotable, and we usually put it to our guest to shame us publicly. And just to give a highlight of that,
it's true.
The guest has been consistently better at this than we have.
Yeah.
And so, Shannon, in keeping with great tradition, we would love it if you would read your quote for us to see if we have a college, we can get it right with the old college try. So, Shannon, what quote do you have for us this week?
I have a quote that I don't even need to read because I know it. So
wow.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, we're going to get smoked.
We're in a lot of trouble.
That's fine.
It's also going to be really hard to say without the accent it was originally set in.
Accents
but
are
I'm
better.
gonna go
that is okay.
Accents are fine.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Brian's an ex-theater kid, so you bring it.
Okay. Well, here's the quote. Can I get you anything, Mr. Trainer? Coffee, tea, me?
Okay.
Oh, there it is. I've read this before, and she sent it to me this afternoon, and I still have no idea
you
what
can't.
it is.
Oh, really?
Fine.
Okay.
I still can't place it.
Mr. Trainer.
Yeah.
Okay. What is that?
Can I get you anything, Mr. Trainer? Coffee, tea, me?
Okay, this feels like a rom-com. Just gonna put that out there.
For sure.
And I feel like I've seen this movie before.
For sure.
And this is a throwaway line. Like they move on to the next line if I'm remembering this scene correctly.
Oh, Brian's on it. The bird dog's on it.
Are we thinking 90s vibes? Or are we thinking a newy?
Or an oldie.
For those that are familiar, Marcus refers to new movies as new
If it's
movies.
anything 2010 and forward, it's a new.
That makes sense to me.
Thank
Instead of
you.
movies, they're
Thank you.
movies.
If the expert says it makes sense, then
That's
guess what?
true.
It makes sense.
Man,
If you start seeing that in Coyote Twin advertising, come see the latest
Come see the
Nui.
newy. Shang-Chi.
I feel like it's an early 2000s joint. If I really had to pinpoint it,
Okay.
it's not Bridget Jones's Diary. That's way too forward for that film. But like, it's gonna be adjacent.
Okay.
I feel like, and I could be totally wrong right now, but like,
Is there a
it's
hint?
I have two hints, so I'm gonna go with the one that might confound you the most.
that's okay.
That's fine.
I love
Oh,
that.
yes.
Perfect.
I'm going with-
I thought that was the hint, and I was like, "Oh,
Big
I'm screwed.
80s hair is the hint.
Oh,
Big 80s hair.
I'm just gonna say hairspray.
No, it's not
Not
hairspray.
All right, well, I'm out. Can I get you anything, Mr. Trainer?
Shannon, is this The Wedding Singer?
It is not, but that is the throwback to the era that it is from.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt really confident going into this. Now I do not.
Okay.
At all. I don't think this is. This isn't Pretty in Pink, right?
Oh.
No.
No. All right. What is it?
Okay.
Are we done?
Yes.
Discussing?
Well, actually, can we get that second hint? I just want to see what it is.
Well, it's really vague because so many movies take place here, but it's like New York City business culture.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't help me at all. So
No, it
I
doesn't
am
help me
I'm
either.
going to
Nope, I'm
seed.
out.
I am seed,
Nah.
and I'm excited to hear what
Yeah.
the answer is.
Lay it
Shannon,
on
what
us.
is the answer.
Yeah, so I kind of figured it might be a little out of your wheelhouse, which is kind of why I wanted to do it.
That's
Okay.
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 It is the 1988 movie Working Girl, starring
Oh.
Melanie Griffith and Harrison Ford. The line is actually spoken by Joan Cusack as a throwaway line to Mr. Trainer, who is played by Harrison Ford,
Yes.
when he arrives in an appointment to see who Tess McGill, who's played by Melanie Griffith, expecting that she is some bigwig when really she's impersonating her boss. And so her friend pretends to be her secretary. Joan Cusack says, "Can I get you anything, Mr. Trainer? Coffee, tea, me?" Because she's very cheeky, and she has eyeshadow that goes all the way up to and hair that's like,
Oh my goodness.
it's
That
a
was-
really good movie. It was nominated for Best Picture, and then all three women in the movie, Sigourney Weaver, Melanie Griffith, and Joan Cusack, were nominated for Oscars as well.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
That is-
Shannon dropping some
That
knowledge
was,
dimes
that's a
on us.
classic.
that was an
Yeah.
excellent movie.
That
My
is-
wife is going to kill me, by the way, when I go tell her what the quote was, because we've seen this before. So that was an excellent pull. Fantastic
Yeah.
film.
Oh, Brian's in
Absolutely good
trouble.
pool.
It's an
Well,
excellent movie. I highly recommend you watch it if you haven't.
Okay, I'm gonna have
Yes.
to check that out because I don't think I have seen that. I have heard about it. And
Oh man, I
within
mean,
my
But you're so right, Brian. It was a rom-com. You were just about 3 decades late.
Yeah.
Joan Cusack. I mean, I feel like she's everywhere. Like
Yeah.
you just
True.
can't
Yeah.
like put her
Very true.
somewhere. So yeah, no, I love it.
Oldie.
yeah,
An old oldie.
an
Thank you,
old
Marcus.
oldie as opposed to a newie. Shannon, thank you for playing our little game, and thanks for dropping some knowledge on us. We invited you here today because, as I kind of mentioned again in our little pre-pro type stuff, we've been discussing for the better part of the past year, gentlemen,
Yes.
the impact that the current health situation in the United States is having on the industry that you work in and that all four of us love and appreciate.
Mhm.
So we're very curious to kind of hear a little bit about just what your lived experience has been and then just what some of the information has been. But I think it would be a great place for us to start to hear a little bit about your background and how you actually got into your position. So why don't you share with us how you got to where you are, and then we will kind of get after some of the other stuff. Sound good?
Sure.
Awesome.
So, at the risk of not giving very sound career advice,
we are not a careers podcast, so go.
No,
this is not a careers podcast.
900% lucked into this job. Like, I showed up in Vermilion as the spouse of a professor, which there are always tons of us floating around looking for a place of like, how do we live in this town that's culture shock for a lot of people because it's quite small. And I started out working as a barista at the Bean. I helped Leslie Garish open the Bean community coffee shop.
Yeah.
And then I was adjuncting at that time as well on campus as a business writing instructor. Sure. And during those times, I was trying to do things in the community, like go to the Vermilion Next coffee hour, or just engage people across the bar from me downtown, or, like just try to meet as many people as I could. And I knew there was a movie theater. I kind of knew like there was a mural being painted on the side of the building. And I thought, who are those cool kids? What's going on? And then I heard that the organization was looking for a dedicated executive director. And someone told the board about me because they knew that I didn't yet have a permanent position in Vermilion. Sure. And so basically one of the town's sort of make it or break it bigwigs used to just come to the Bean in the morning and sit across from me and like quiz me.
Oh, sure.
Like just gently,
all right,
gently lace questions into the conversation and like scope me out and see if I was responsible. And then he was on the board of directors and he recommended that they interview me, and I got the job.
That's
and
fantastic.
When I was in the interview, there was this awkward moment where I went to say something at the same time he went to say something, and respect your elder. So I stopped myself and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Ted. I didn't mean to interrupt. What are you? What did you mean to say?" And he kind of like took his pen and he just put it down and was, I just think you're going to be really good at this.
Well, if that isn't a great feeling to have in an interview, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like that meant so much to me. Yeah. And then it kind of turned out, I mean, not to toot my own horn, that he was right. Like literally everything I had done in my life, from being an incredible media geek as a kid who watched nothing but TCM movies, Turner Classic Movies, instead of going outside to play, to like being interested in marketing and being a media studies major in college, and being a proofreader and working with a graphics design department. So I learned how to do like marketing stuff and making sure that things look nice before they go out to the public. And, all of that just kind of like whoosh came to bear on this job. And while my job technically is to oversee the organization as a whole, and the Coyote Twin is like only part of that, it is the business that we run. I mean, that is central to being able to support all of the other programs we do. Sure. So it does take a lot of time and attention.
For sure. That's really cool.
Amazing. Wow. I'll tell you this. Cool. That is definitely a townie interview. Like it's definitely like the low key one before the real interview. That's definitely like you get interviewed at the bar before you get to the real interview.
They leave a 20 and then you go to turn it in to whoever it is, and they pop up. They're like, "You passed." And you're like,
testing.
I was just being nice. Like,
it was like, so if you had to market movies, what would you do, or how would you talk to studios about? And I was just like, I don't know. Can I get you another coffee?
Yeah. We are in a coffee shop, sir. And I don't think it's a place to discuss business.
You're supposed to ask if you want cream in that or not this type of stuff.
But
that's really cool. Well, thank you for sharing. And that's really cool.
That is really dope, though.
So obviously the past year has been tough, and for context for those who are listening, Marcus and I both live in Vermilion and are customers of the theater, and we're kind of aware of the shutdowns and so on and so forth. But give us an idea of how did the Coyote Twin navigate the past year, and just how did things go from your perspective with just where we're at based on where we are now and then where we were a year from now.
Okay, so when it became clear that the pandemic was going to affect the United States in a strong way,
sure,
and movies started dropping off the slate and getting pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah.
That was March, right, of 2020, and we closed because all of our April movies disappeared.
Oh yeah,
and then the seriousness rose to such a level, seriousness of people being in groups indoors together just became like unthinkable.
Yeah.
So we closed, I think it was March 22nd. And I cried for like the week, that whole week, thinking, if we close the doors now, I don't know if we'll reopen.
Sure.
Wow.
What might be of interest to your listeners is that the Coyote Twin is a nonprofit owned theater. So my organization is a not-for-profit and we run a business because we want to provide a good to the community. So nonprofit doesn't mean no profit. Like, it's nice if we make a profit, but those profits get turned back into the organization to either support other arts programming or the theater itself.
Yeah.
We are not affiliated with an AMC or a big chain or, even like Logan Luxury Theaters in the northern part of the state. Sure. We aren't affiliated with anybody like that. It really is just me and my little team of 7 people.
Yeah.
So knowing that we had a really successful 2019 and that still only meant a narrow profit margin, I was just like, I have no idea what's going to happen now.
Sure.
So we did all of the things everybody else did. We hunkered down. We closed the business. We tried to find other ways to come up with like money making.
Yeah. Right.
things. We sold something like 500 pounds of popcorn in sales and to-go sales in the summer.
Did.
That's incredible.
That's incredible.
I mean, easily, maybe more than that. And then by fall, we knew that like it still wasn't super, like people weren't still really keen on going back to movies, but the industry tried to reopen with Tenet.
Wait, so you're saying Tenet didn't really bring the people back?
I mean,
so in August we tried to reopen, and then of course Tenet got even further delayed. And basically we were open for like 2 months, and we were like, this is not sustainable. People are still not coming to movies. Peace out. Try again when it's safer. So we opened again on Memorial Day weekend this year.
Sure.
Which felt a lot better because people had like vaccinations had started, and it was summer and people were antsy, and so we were really ready for like business to start again, and it went okay. I mean, I won't say this wasn't a blockbuster summer. You guys know that. You've been paying attention.
It was not.
It wasn't. I mean, the biggest movie year ever was 2019, and it was not going to be that. But we had a movie slate, and things weren't moving so much that we had to close the doors. So that was really my thing, was like, if these tentpole titles can hold, we can stay open.
Right.
And so then during that time, I will say we were doing things like applying for a ton of grants.
Oh, I bet.
The government, as part of the CARES Act at the end of 2020, and then the American Rescue Plan earlier this year, has put together some grant packages through like National Endowment of the Arts, which is administered by the South Dakota Arts Council. And because we're an arts nonprofit in the state, we have access to those funds. We also were part of the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, which there was a lot of kerfluffle about earlier this year, you may have heard.
Sure.
Because it was taking a really long time for the Small Business Association to get that.
Yes. And that, I know that affected other small businesses too.
Yeah, because it wasn't just movie theaters. It was stages. It was regular like performance theaters. It was even some museums could apply. So yeah. And then the application was giant, and I hated my life for like 2 months. But
as someone that has done grant writing before, I used to work as a volunteer coordinator at a Goodwill another life ago. and I helped do grant writing. So the fact that you did it and then got it, like, kudos to you. I'll just say that out loud. And if it was long, then it must have been a tome, because I swear some of those applications they like ask for your like ancestral background. It's wild.
We had to prove that we had fixed seats and a fixed screen, and I was like looking for receipts from 6 years ago to prove that we had projectors installed. And like,
that's insane.
Well, if you don't have that, then you shouldn't have access to that money, said nobody.
And also, maximum award for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, because again, we're talking like movie chains.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, was $10 million.
Yes.
I asked for under 200,000, and I still had to do all that. Where I was like, I should have been a checkbox.
That is so upsetting. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I bet that was a lot of work.
Less than $300,000. Check this box and skip questions.
Just give it to me. Yeah, just give it to me. I'll take it from here.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that's complaining about my job.
No. I think that's good. I appreciate knowing that.
The thing that was cool about it is that it really was showing that the government was doing something, and it matters. Like, we are using those funds to be operating now. And that's what we're using to pay for movies, to get them on screen, because we didn't have money before that, right? That's what made it possible to do what we're doing. And I don't want people to think like, yes, the red tape was ridiculous, but government worked in this case.
Yeah,
it was successful, and it means the world that this little theater can stay open because of that, because of the community. Like, literally, we were paying our $1,200 a month overhead based on $1,200 a month popcorn sales. Like, it was close.
It was wild.
Like, popcorn was keeping the roof. Yeah, it was keeping the roof above y'all.
I don't think that the picture is being painted in full though. Like, the movie theater was like the place to go in like Vern, right? For me at least. And so like we would go, and then when everything shut down and they went to popcorn sales, all they really did was say, we're on Facebook. They went on Facebook and they were like, we're doing popcorn sales, and people would line up every day, and people would talk about like, oh, I gotta go. Vermilion Theater is about to start their popcorn. They might sell out before I get there. Like, and you would think that it's like, oh, that's just popcorn, but like, it's about the experience that Vermilion Theater gives you and the community that we have, where it's like
100%.
That's more than just popcorn. We know where that money is going, and also like we miss this experience and we want to be there. This is the closest thing that we could probably get to being back until we get back.
Right.
Yeah,
for sure.
I appreciate that a lot. It was really, and then our popcorn, the supply chains went down, and we lost our popcorn vendor.
Oh no!
You guys, it has been
that's 2020 for you.
It has been crazy.
Yeah.
But okay, so then that's like small town. What happened in our building wise? Bigger picture, it just took a long time for the studios to like gauge when consumer confidence would be high enough to like make a schedule of movies and stick to it.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole highly controversial video on demand streaming release system.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Wait, what?
No way.
No.
Yeah. So this summer it honestly felt like I made it through the pandemic so that you could kill me with Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Ooh, geez,
I can imagine why you would feel that way.
Or HBO Max in this case, I'm sure.
Exactly. Actually, HBO Max is proving to be a bigger problem because Warner Brothers has still committed to releasing all of its movies simultaneously to HBO. Whereas Disney like played a game for a little while.
They sure did. Feels like they're still playing it in some respects.
Yeah.
Well, they have guaranteed that everything else that comes out for the rest of this year will have a theatrical window.
Okay.
Of 30 days.
Right on.
I could talk to you about this for 2 hours, but so what happened this summer is like, particularly Black Widow is the example everyone keeps talking about, right?
Lord.
Oh, we love to talk about that movie here.
Yes,
I know. I've listened to all your episodes about it.
Oh, wow. Well, that's nice. Thank you.
Do I sound like a hater?
Yeah, a little bit.
So Black Widow was huge that opening weekend. That was the first time where we had a line out the door, and my manager and I were looking at each other. All of our staff had gone on vacation. We were like,
oh, sure,
totally short staffed. There's just two of us, and we were looking at each other like, shit. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, we're gonna break our COVID capacity. Like, what?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts. And then the next day, nothing.
Huh.
Okay.
And that had a lot to do with, one, there were pirated copies up within a half hour of the movie being released to Disney Plus.
I didn't know that was still a problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is.
And it's an even bigger problem now, Marcus, because everything is so easily available. You don't even have to go sit in a theater and record it and then upload it to online. It's just right there on your computer. Copy it, send it in the world.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And then the second weekend, I mean, it's been all over the news. Like, was a 68% drop or something between first weekend opening box office to second week. No one came to the movie for the next 2 weeks. And it was like, well, that was fun. You know, was that it?
Yeah.
Was that blockbuster season?
Right.
Huh.
Conversely, Shang-Chi opened and it was in theaters only. And dude, I'm wrestling with the studios right now because they want me to keep it for a fourth week.
Wow.
Wow.
Huh.
Wow.
And I don't want it for a fourth week. We're a small town. We need to turn over our screens.
Yeah.
That's true.
I get that.
Also showed you it was better than Black Widow, but
Okay.
Well, yeah.
All right.
well, thank you. See,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. We have a guest here, so I'm not gonna launch into my
Guys,
rage.
save the
here.
squabbling until after she leaves, and then we'll settle.
Right.
posing.
Okay. All right.
Why are you posing?
So it's just crazy that, like, it means something. It means something to have a theatrical window. You cannot expect there to be movie exhibitors without that window. And I don't know how much you guys know about, like, first run versus second run versus.
No, please explain it to us.
Very little.
I'm familiar, but I think a good explanation would be great.
Okay. So a first run movie, like, I say that we are the only first run movie within 30 miles, like in a 30-mile radius of Vermilion.
Okay.
Because there are movie theaters that are like 31 miles away, but they are not dedicated first run theaters. They pick up movies on what's called second run. So first run is when you premiere a movie on the date it is nationally premiering.
Okay. Okay.
So that's called on the break. When you take a movie on the break, like we took Shang-Chi on the break, that is a first run movie. And the first run of any movie is 2 weeks long.
Okay.
So then a second run of something like Shang-Chi, technically, for example, this weekend or this past weekend, the 15th, whatever it was the beginning of Shang-Chi's second run because it has been out for 2 weeks and then it becomes what's called a second run movie.
Okay.
So if we want to take movies, we can either get them first run and have them for at least 2 weeks. You can't ever have a first run movie for just 1 week.
Okay.
And then we could if we don't take it on the break, we have to take it second run. So then you have to wait 2 weeks to get it.
Got it. Okay.
So our business model, we try to split the difference because a first run movie, 65% of the ticket sales go to the studio for a first run movie.
Okay. Huh. That's steep.
Not even a 50-50 break. That's rough.
No. Something like 63 is like a deal.
That's wild.
Is that standard across most studios, Shannon?
Yeah, Disney is the highest, but it's usually 60 to 65 for a first run movie.
Okay.
And then a second run movie, again, 2 weeks later, you can get it for like 35% ticket take.
Oh.
So we try to do a little bit of both. We try to take the big ones on the break, take some second runs where we know people might be willing to wait, and we'll have like a little slogan that's like, save it for side 2, you know, we'll put it in the in the smaller theater, but like it will come to Vermilion, save it for side 2. Because we know that we get a bigger percentage of that ticket take. Okay. So this is what studios are thinking. They want you to take things on the break. They want you to keep them because if you are locked in on the break, then you don't get that you don't get that discount for that second run. And they also want to get this audience on streaming. However, you don't get people going to the movie theater if it's on streaming. So you actually get less, you know, you're splitting your potential
Yep.
money resources.
Yeah.
Okay. So it becomes like really hard when you're releasing everything to streaming and then all of a sudden I can't take things second run because people have already seen them.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Got it.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
this whole summer has been like, there has been no Save It for Side 2 because it's either watch it on the premiere or watch it on streaming.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way for me to kind of work those percentages.
Right.
And that's been frustrating.
I can imagine so.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Is there a scenario that works with streaming and with how the movie can operate and both can be successful? Is there like any situation where both can get what they want out of it?
I think absolutely, because I think this is where the dedicated theatrical release window comes in.
Sure.
Because then you've got an opportunity to, instead of splitting your audience in the first couple weeks, you have a second chance at that same audience. So you put something in a theater, we run it for 2 weeks, but someone wants to see it 30 days later. It's already left theater, but they can get it on streaming. And so they'll pay for your streaming service to make sure that they see it again.
Sure.
As soon as they want to. So it used to be that exclusive theatrical runs were like 75 to 90 days.
Yes.
It didn't come out at Blockbuster or whatever, or, for months. And now, like, I'm glad that Disney is giving us 30 days.
Sure.
Right.
Wow.
Well, and then you heard towards the tail end of the pandemic is after the great experiment with HBO Max's dual release, AMC and others signing big name contracts with studios saying we'll give it 18 days or we'll give it at least dedicated 19 days before we make it available anywhere to stream. So I suppose that's a lot. It's got to be helpful to hear that those deals are being made. Not that you're a part of a big chain, but it at least gives some context to others.
But to save the whole exhibitor business, I think that's what we're all concerned about, right? Like the big questions that you see all the articles about is like, are movie theaters dead? Is going to the movies no longer a thing? Is, those are the talking points. And I mean, I think it's a fair question, but this isn't the first time the industry has had to face weird innovation problems.
Right.
Like when you think about the golden age of Hollywood and the studio system where like actors were signed to specific studios.
Oh yeah. Like football teams basically. Yeah,
like that whole transition where people started to say, I want to be an independent contractor and I don't want to only make MGM movies. I want to also make Warner Brother movies. Like people like everybody thought the sky was falling, especially the studios, because that was how they knew to make money.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Was market Rita Hayworth or market, particular people.
Yep.
So that was a really big deal. And then you think about like the 60s through 70s where like New Hollywood was happening, where it was like all the new hot directors that we now think of like the old hot directors, like Scorsese and Spielberg and all these people showed up and they were like the cadre of people who were doing new and exciting movies. That was a whole thing. And the industry was like, whoa, what? We have to show people getting shot on film now?
Right.
The bad guys might win? Wow.
Yeah.
Changes the game.
Pride upset everything because like people died on screen and they were talking about erectile dysfunction and it was like a whole thing. And like,
How dare they?
Right?
Yeah.
It was no longer the Hays Code era, my friends. That was a whole
gambling was like, in my movies. Yeah.
Are people going to pay money to come see this film?
Right. Yeah.
It was a problem.
Yeah.
So we weathered this before. A TV, they thought TV would kill movies. In fact, it supplements it because guess what? You can play on TV later.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So we've done this before. It just feels awful right now, and it feels awful right now because it's also a pandemic and everything feels awful right now.
That's true.
I mean, yes.
Accurate.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's also accurate.
Breathing hurts.
Yeah. Right. Shannon, I want to ask you specifically unless Brian or Marcus, if you guys have any questions.
No, go ahead, Doug.
Okay, so my question is specifically, I want to bring up our friend and our pal Christopher Nolan, because if we remember back, we remember back to Tenet, the big issue that we had with Tenet was that Nolan essentially said, my movie deserves to be shown in a theater, and was very supportive of the theater experience, which I think that statement has merit. But do you feel that, from your perspective, that there are certain movies that just cannot exist in streaming whatsoever, or is it more of a, like you said, preserving the experience? And so, just thoughts on that statement that he made.
Although grandiose, I agree that some movies are better on a larger theatrical
totally
screen.
100%.
That's fair. That's fair.
Tenet was not one of them, but yeah.
I
actually didn't see it because I was too afraid to sit in the theater.
That's okay.
Yeah, we did it. We could tell you it wasn't.
We can tell you it doesn't make sense.
But having just recently rewatched The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises on TV, I was like, what I could remember was like how awesome that was when it was really big.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's almost like it has this carryover effect of like, remember that time, like, I was totally enveloped in this whole world, and like, and you kind of carry that sense memory with you as you're watching it,
for
like
sure.
petting your cat, you know, like you live both things at once.
For sure. Yeah.
But I do, and that's where you get into the like cultural relevance and importance of movies.
Sure.
And like all these arguments about how we are social creatures, and the reason this pandemic has been hard is because just being in the world as a person, whether you're sitting in the dark watching a movie or like buying coffee in face to face from someone, like being recognized as a human in the world like, wasn't a thing for a long time. And so the importance of movie going, I think, that's part of it. You know, like Marcus said, that's the thing to go do.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, I think that combined with the sort of like epic experience does matter. I do. I think it matters. I think it makes a difference in how we appreciate the art form, because movies are the most democratically, like, small d, accessible to everyone art form.
Yes.
True.
And I think that you like taking that away or putting it essentially behind a bigger paywall than a ticket is dangerous.
Yeah, that's what kind of, I mean, we talked about it when we talked about like Mulan going, I think, straight to Disney Plus instead of being in the theater. We talked about now you're putting this behind a paywall, and it's $30 is steep. And how long, I mean, knowing how Disney operates, how long does that 30 become 40 and that 40 become 50? I mean, it's a stone's throw away from, you can pay the $13 to get Disney Plus, but unless you're wealthier, you know, you're not going to have access to these things.
And if you're a single person, like a college student or 20-something years old, you don't want to pay $30 to watch that movie.
No.
If you have a family of 4, $30 makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Me as a single black man. Yes.
I don't begrudge people streaming. I get it. I think during the pandemic, it was 100% necessary because the movie industry needed a way to make money so that people could come back. Like, I don't begrudge that at all. I think I'm with Marcus that like we've got to find a way to like do this together. I just really want those like theatrical windows to stay.
Sure. I totally get that.
In full explanation that it makes the most sense. Like, and for me personally, not knowing anything about the business side of it, all I know is 30 days, 30 days. That's the thing that keeps coming up. 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. I know I have glitchy HBO Max, and sometimes I don't want to go to to a theater. Like, granted, I can't press rewind or my TV starts smoking, but like,
or the app will just restart.
It'll just restart my whole Roku. Like, hey, we're just gonna kick you out of here. And I'm like, totally. I pay the bills here. Like, you can't kick me out of here. but for me as somebody from the outside, it's like more options. Oh, okay. For HBO Max specifically, I don't have to pay. I just watched Reminiscent last night.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, how was it? I haven't watched it yet.
Honestly, I would say like 6 out of 10.
That's okay.
It's like not a bad movie. It's like a good watch. I recommend.
That's a pretty good Marcus review. Okay.
I like Hugh Jackman, so I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. Every time he gets mad, though, all I can think about is Wolverine.
That's going to be his problem for the next like 10 years.
Yeah.
All that guy wants to do is sing, and he's just going to be remembered as like the knife hands guy for the rest of his life.
Showman. Yeah, show us your claws.
Yeah.
Let's do both. These things with the claws.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Les Mis, but it's Wolverine instead of Hugh Jackman.
That's.
He could have been Jean Valjean, wasn't he? Jean Valjean?
I think he was though.
Oh yeah, he was.
He was.
Yeah,
he was.
like I said.
But I like the idea of more options. But now that I hear the explanation in full, I can see how that would be, detrimental to a business,
100%.
like especially a small town like Vermilion. Like our tickets are how much, Miss Shannon, with student
for
discount?
A general admission ticket for an adult, it is $10.
10.
Suck it, Brian. Enjoy those.
Well, like prices. I'm paying in Chicago dollars over here, and I'm hearing this, and it's like, wow, like that would be that. That's
what is it there? Like 16?
So like even just a matinee, you're looking at $11 to like $15, depending on the theater you go to. If you go Friday or Saturday night, which we have not done in a long time, you're looking at least $15. Depending on where you're going. If you're in the city, it's not unheard of to be paying $20.
Oh no, 22 I think is standard in like New York and yeah.
That's what our other guest Brian, our friend of ours from Cornell, said about going in New York.
Oh yes,
It's wild.
Yeah, that is wild.
So, and again, we purposely we could have $16 tickets. That would be great. We would make a lot more money. No one would come to the movies in this town.
Yep, that's true.
We are a population where, I don't know what the most recent census data says, but the last census, it had like 35% poverty rate in Vermilion. I mean, that's high.
It's high. It's extremely high.
Yeah. So
Clay County is extremely, extremely, extremely high.
Right. So we are at a disadvantage there. And we, again, to really truly live up to our values as a nonprofit of making arts and culture available daily to everyone, that is our mission. And so we have to keep that barrier to entry as low as possible, and then do things like be able to offer free community movies. If we have a sponsor who wants to pay the license, then we can open the doors to anyone, stuff like that. We purposely build in that flexibility because that's our mission. But if we were a different organization, movies would be more expensive in this town.
For sure. And
And
I think that's the other really cool thing that I just want to bump about the theater and you all is that my son he goes to daycare at I'm not going to be able to remember the name, but there were a couple
daycare.
Daycare. There were a couple times though where they did movies at the theater. I think it was on
Thursday afternoons.
Yeah, Thursday. That sounds right. Thursday afternoons, and he would come back. He'd be like, "Dad, we went to a theater today." It made his week, and I think that's something that is something that sets you apart from others, is that ability to say, look at this cool thing we did, but we could partner it because we want to make it accessible to everybody. So I think that that's just kind of a bump I want to throw out there. I think that that's really cool. And you wouldn't get if you all were run by somebody else.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can, a lot of us did go to, that's another thing we did during the height of the pandemic, which it's still a pandemic. Who are we?
Oh yes, yes.
100%.
It is.
Vaccination pandemic. We did a ton of theater rentals because people could bring their small group of friends and watch a movie with each other, and then we don't have to worry about we're not publicizing it, we're not competing with other movies. We have a lot more flexibility into what goes on screen during those situations. So. That was a good profit maker for us, and also kept people in touch with the fact that there is a theater in this town, And you're right, those things that we do for kids, those are private theater rentals for just that dedicated group of people. The Vermilion Public Library tends to sponsor those. Sure. So shout out to them for being awesome community partners who know that children need all kinds of different stimulation, and they can't do story time every day. So let's make one
Right.
story time a movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's
and
really
for some
cool.
of those kids, it's the first time in the theater, and they get,
That's
you
true.
know, there. And you think about how big that stadium is to us, and
Yeah.
then you picture being 3 feet shorter.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
It does make a big difference.
it
It's a
does.
big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We do, you know, we can't, like I said, those are private events. We don't like publicize them really, and I can't take pictures of people's kids and put them on the internet and say we did this.
Good,
So-
good call.
That's
you
probably a
could.
good idea.
You could, but
If you ever see a little boy named Harrison running around the theater, take his picture. He doesn't care. He's my kid. You're fine.
I think technically the rule is if there's 3 or more children in the picture, it's okay. But I'm not gonna.
No, I wouldn't mess with that either.
No.
Yeah,
I
that would
feel
be
like-
a great
I
headline.
feel like if I would have said that same line, it would have sounded creepy. Well,
It
you know,
probably
Yeah.
is.
you know what the rule is. 3
I
or
don't
more
do
kids
it
in the
about
picture.
either,
Four or
Marcus.
more.
It's like, whoa, buddy. We gonna have
Yeah, hold
whoa.
down. Just pump the brakes.
It doesn't feel great as a line.
No.
Yes, absolutely. Brian or Marcus, any other questions for Shannon about what it's like to just run a theater and just some of this insight in the business side of things?
I honestly, I just wanted to give kudos because before we had you come on the show, I went online and checked everything out. And one thing that I wanted to say that I appreciated, and maybe you can speak on it, is the fact that it's on the Verm Culture website, but it's also, I believe, on the Coyote Twin Theater website. But you all talk about
Brian,
hey,
you want to say that word again for me?
Say that word again one more time.
You added a vowel.
What animal were you talking about?
I'm sorry. I feel like I've made a faux pas.
You may have.
And okay, the Coyote Twin.
Nope. Yeah,
No,
okay.
no.
So
Marcus is upset.
So in this part of the country, Brian, it's not a coyote, and I know
Okay.
it throws you off because it's
Okay.
not Wile E. Coyote. It's
all
Wile E.
right.
Coyote.
It's
we
just
say
Coyote.
Coyote. Yep. there
Okay,
you go.
my sincere apologies to the town of Verm.
Brian, Marcus is
I
broken
apologize. This is basically an example of you can learn at any time in your life. And I'm learning right now, and that's a coyote.
It
and
is.
For those that are listening to this in podcast format, I just got dunked on because on our visual medium, Doug just put read a book.
Oh, I didn't. That was all Marcus.
Oh, that was Marcus.
Yeah.
Thank you to my co-hosts. So this Northern Yankee over here is learn how to say coyote. Well, I'm gonna get to the thing that I wanted to say is that you all talk about like how you're capping the auditorium at 50%. You're keeping the air circulation there. You're like monitoring protocols. And I just want to say, I think that's great because a lot of the bigger chains around me, it's just like you go to their website and it's like, hey, come to this movie. Just come on. Just come on. It's fine. Come on in. It's everything's fine. And I just appreciate that you're putting out there exactly what you're doing because I feel like that's the push and pull of this right now. Is people being like, can we do this now? Is it fine? And in my opinion, if you're vaccinated and you're going to these spaces, you're mostly fine as long as you're following the stuff that you're putting on the website of like, yeah, we're having the circulation system running. Like we're going to be spaced out. And I just wanted to say, I appreciate that. Were those easy decisions to make and just wanting to know more about that?
Sure. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that because it was, as you may know, Brian, and as Doug and Marcus certainly know, there are actually no state COVID restrictions
There are not.
in South Dakota.
Yes.
Free as a bird. Welcome to America.
We're all about freedom here. You have the 100% freedom to get COVID wherever you want. And
I like how you phrase that. Yeah.
On a motorcycle, waving a gun,
All right.
not smoking a joint. That's the line.
Not
In case anybody's
smoking a
curious,
joint.
that
Meth.
there is the line.
Yeah.
So we kind of like went rogue and decided to keep a capacity cap when we opened in May. Like, and honestly, you guys, we don't hit 50% capacity anyway on most.
Right.
Like you've been to the theater, you know, you're there with 5 other people on like any given Saturday night sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
I love it so much. That's my favorite part.
It's
Having a row to yourself with a beer and popcorn.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah. Hey, we sell beer. Tell everybody.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that part wasn't a hard decision. The other thing that has been nice to be able to lean on, especially when this isn't a statewide cause for businesses to get behind, is that nationally, last summer, sort of the industry, the National Association of Theater Owners, in conjunction with a lot of epidemiologists and studios and et cetera, put together the hashtag CinemaSafe campaign.
Oh, sure. Right.
And so that website has, like, people can read about all of the precautions that are recommended they have a list of everything that's possible that you could look at doing. And then you can tailor it to what your state is offering. And since our state is offering nothing, we went with some of the ones that we knew were in our capacity to do.
Sure.
Right.
When we first were trying to stay open in March, literally after every single movie, my staff was in there with like disinfectant bottles, wiping down every single seat.
Wow.
We have since learned that maybe that's only necessary like once a weekend.
Oh,
hey.
Thank you for taking extra precautions, though. Yeah.
Thank you. It's but yeah, air circulation seems to be most important. So all of my systems, the AC or like the fans are just on all the time. We do now require people to wear masks in the lobby. That was a Delta variant sort of.
Yeah.
We're going back to this.
Yep.
And it's hard because, for example, our biggest population are university students, and masks aren't required on university campus right now. So there was a lot of training of that behavior. There is literally a giant door-sized poster on the front door that says "Heroes wear masks," and it like shows people wearing.
Love that.
Masks.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and that's only in the lobby because, like, again, it's when you're close to people or, breathing on people you don't know. So please do that in the lobby. Do that for my staff. Do that for each other. And then when, like Marcus said, when you're sitting there in your own row,
right,
and we have every other row blocked off, like, cool, eat your popcorn, like, yeah. But it's just sort of to me, those were no-brainers, but I did check with my whole staff, like, how do you feel about this? Are you okay holding the line?
Yeah.
Because it unfortunately is controversial here. So
yeah.
But we live in a good place. Verm is, of all the places, like, I think people are the most willing to like do the thing and get it in Vermont.
Yeah.
We are the soul of South Dakota.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's true. That's sometimes
honestly,
very,
I
very
do feel
true.
like that's very true. Like, Vermilion is like, it's a blessing and a curse to be in a small town for whatever reason. Like, it has its ups and its downs, rather, is what I'll say. And my movie going experience is, I used to live in Virginia, I used to live in Texas, all these big cities. And so you go in and you sit next to strangers or like, obviously the people you go with, you get your food, you watch your movie, and like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And you really are enjoying the vibe of the space. Vermilion Theater is a little bit different. Me and Doug can go to a theater. We would go in there and we will be sometimes the only two people watching Jungle Cruise, laughing our asses off. And like,
we are generally surprised we have not been asked to leave.
3 times?
Especially after
you're alone in the theater.
Especially after In the Heights, when I got that thing wrong, we were laughing out loud for the better part of 10 minutes.
I know who that is. That's Antonio Banderas. No, that is not.
Apologies to Mark Anthony.
It's not.
Mark Anthony. I don't know my Latin singers.
But it's just like, that was one thing I did want to say, and that's my last thing.
Yeah.
We should appreciate the things that we have. And appreciate the things that we've gone through. So like, the pandemic, of course, has been ass. It's been an ass and a half, but it's also like, it's shown me to have a better appreciation for things. There was a theater in Yankton, which is about 30 minutes away from us. That theater is no longer there now.
It closed during the pandemic and never.
And so like, I think about, man, like, that could have been us. Like, and not even just the drive, like, okay, we go 30 minutes to a theater or an hour to a theater, whatever the case may be, to get to Sioux Falls, Sioux City. But if we would have shut down, that takes a big part. There are student orgs on campus, and I've been involved in at least 5 of them that rent out the theater to show movies to students. And the theater shows free movies to students. Like Shang-Chi during like opening weekend, or the second weekend
Right.
or the second thing, and you're showing it free to students.
Yeah.
Like that's wild to think about.
Yeah.
But it's an experience that a lot of people don't get, and I think that that's something that we need to appreciate moving forward. Is like support your local business, support your local theater, support your big
100%.
theaters, whatever it is. Like, but just appreciate where we are.
Yeah, 100%. Completely.
And
agree.
I will clarify that those tickets are like the free student admission is sponsored by the university, which is incredibly generous that they have the
right on,
desire to provide that for their students, because they know their own capacity to do programming is limited, but they also want students to engage with the community and come downtown and be part of that. Like, it is very forward thinking and cool that they do that with us. And you bring your, USD ID, you sign in on a sheet, we invoice the university. It's like the easiest thing. It's kind of a guaranteed audience for us some nights. Sometimes I get a little confused when they show a movie on campus on the same nights that they do. I'm like, we need to talk.
I'll never forget. I'll never forget. Sorry, this is my last thing. One of my favorite memories is when Black Panther got released. It was the opening weekend for the opening weekend.
There was an energy there.
Yeah, it was a vibe. So my org, where we work with Vermilion Theater, we rented out the theater. We rented out one theater. We only did one because we were like, hey, it's fine. And the really dope thing about Vermilion Theater is it's attached to an art gallery. So we had a photo booth in the art gallery portion. The line was out the door. Let me tell you what Vermilion Theater did. They opened up we filled up the first one. They opened up the second theater. After they opened up the second theater, they started bringing out folding chairs to make sure that people could sit and watch the movie. That's so how packed that it was. And so this is why
the fire department.
Oh well,
they don't listen to this
they probably were in there watching too. But it's just that's the dope stuff that we get here in Verm, and that's just crazy to me. So
and I think that's a huge plug for local theaters. You're not going to find that at some of the other theaters we have mentioned that I won't name by name, but I agree, that's something really special.
Yeah.
100%. We've got some hustle. We mean it. We're here for the community, and people are always like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you showed our movie to our 25 students. I'm like, this is why we exist. Yes, the organization was founded to sort of save the cinema going experience in Vermilion, but that includes you and your 25 friends wanting to watch these 4 specific episodes of Golden Girls. That's fine.
Right.
That's I would rather people have those memories, you know what I mean, than follow a standard or say no to people. It is so hard when there's lines out the door and I have to say no to people. For sure. It's hard, but what I remember, Black Panther was a really crazy weekend. So was Avengers. Was it Infinity War was the last one?
Endgame.
Sorry.
That was a crazy weekend too.
That was crazy.
Yeah, very
crazy. We sold
weekend.
out 7 shows that weekend.
Yeah,
that is.
I believe that.
I don't think I was able to get in there to see that until.
No, you and I saw it. I think it was the late show on Friday.
Yeah, it was the super late show.
It was like the
maybe the premiere show.
Mm-hmm.
I think
we did a late premiere of that one. Yeah,
that sounds right. So
yeah, it was that was crazy. And again, people just kind of get it. When they've got that line that goes from the concessions register all the way out into the second building, looping around that room and then out the door. The fact that people are willing to do that, get in line, wait for us to clean the theater, be cool with it. That means the world that we have an audience who understands that it's just 6 of us,
right. Just a crew
that gets it, that's willing to wait for movies to come to side 2, that's willing to let us clean the theater so that I have a clean experience in there, who will put on the mask to help my staff, that will and me. I'm not I'm vaccinated, but I'm an immunocompromised person, and so I kind of sit up here in my little bubble office.
Yeah.
But when I go downstairs and I do see customers, I'm like, okay, I feel safe in my own workplace. Thank you.
That's really cool.
It's
that's really, really cool.
I could not ask for again, for lucking into a job entirely randomly, to have it fit with everything I didn't know I was working toward in my life, and then to be in a community who wants to support that and who wants to have someone doing the job that I'm doing is like, I don't know what else I should be doing in my life. Like this is, so yeah, I'm lucky. Really cool. I'm really lucky. We are lucky.
That is no better place to end our conversation for today with you, Shannon. So first off, thank you for doing what you do for Vermilion. It's amazing. We greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the podcast by listening, and just keep it up. We love going there, so we love all that you do. But we wanted to thank you for your time. Anything you want to plug on behalf of the theater before we move on to some news headlines?
For local Vermillionaires, we will be taking Venom, James Bond, and Dune on the break. So come see.
Oh yeah.
On those premiere dates.
That is a loaded October.
It is a loaded October. October 1st, October 8th, and October 22nd. And also, if you want to support us in some little way, you can always still buy popcorn to go, or you can buy stickers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We now have our first Coyote Twin merch. We've got some stickers that say Coyote Twin. We've got some that say like hashtag Verm Cult for like part of the Culture Association.
That's really cool.
They're like $2 or $3. You can get them at the cinema. And just every little bit helps because, again, nonprofit doesn't mean no profit.
That's true. That's very, very true. It's very, very true.
But I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys giving me a time. The movie business is confusing, and I really every chance I get to explain like why we have to make the choices we do and how the studios are a really big part of those choices, and we're not always as in control as we seem. That helps.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't know that. So I'm glad we were able to give them some education.
We got your back.
So, yeah, 100%. So,
well, okay. Anytime you have further questions, just let me know. Or if you watch Working Girl, tell me.
We'll do. We will.
There you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, bye. Oh, gentlemen, fire conversation. Glad we were able to do it.
Amazing.
But I want to make sure that we get some time because there are some headlines that came out over the course of the past few weeks.
Are they?
And I do think it's important that we touch on those. So I'm going to kick it down to Brian because Brian seems like he is like primed and ready and amped.
Maybe.
Brian, have you cracked into your LaCroix? Are you half LaCroix in?
Oh, no. We are through the tea, gentlemen. We are through the LaCroix. We are onto the backup now, like the Camelback here. So we're cruising.
This guy's hydrated.
Brian, what do you got for your first piece of news this week?
My first piece of news is that Marcia Lucas had some things to say in a book about the sequel trilogy made by Disney. The headline I'm going to take from IndieWire: Star Wars editor Marcia Lucas slams Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams. Quote, "They don't have a clue." If you're not familiar, Marcia Lucas was basically one of the main editors for A New Hope when Star Wars released in 1977. She is credited with basically saving that film in a way of Lucas had a very rigid idea of what that movie needed to be. She looked at it and she's like, this sucks. And she recut it. To give you an idea of like how Lucas wanted this movie made, the film opened with Luke on Tatooine and it just stayed there for like at least 15 minutes. And there's like a whole cut scene of him like looking up in the sky and he's like, oh, it looks like there's stuff going on up there. And 15 minutes later, it then cuts to the Star Destroyer and the sequence we know and love that opens the movie, capturing the tinier spaceship, Darth Vader going in. That's how we know that movie starts. There's an alternative universe where you don't see that scene for like 20 minutes, among other things. So in any case, she's kind of well known in the Star Wars world. And basically, to sum up her comments about the sequel trilogy, she really did not like that Han Solo died in The Force Awakens. She didn't like that Luke died in The Last Jedi. And the comments that really grind my gears were the fact that she made comments talking about how the main character is female, and she feels that the characters are only there to appeal to to the female audience, and she doesn't understand how she got her Jedi powers. She thinks the storylines are terrible, awful. She also said, "You can quote me and tell them I said that." So obviously, some things were said here, and the commentary I want to give here before I turn it over to you all for your thoughts is that the sequel trilogy is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a Star Wars fan. I enjoy all of them. Some are better than others. I enjoy others more than others. And like, she actually had a thing to say here that people would have listened to on all fans of, if she gave it any type of critique, any type of actual like constructive feedback, I feel like people would have listened. But instead she was like, "You killed Han Solo and Luke." Like she could have used her platform to be like, "Hey, it's kind of wild. Y'all didn't plan out this sequel trilogy in the age of Marvel, but okay, sure. You want to do a new story for each movie that you're releasing for your billion-dollar tentpole? Sure, go for it." That is a legitimate critical feedback that I feel like we all could have talked about. But no, we're going to talk about how did Rey become a Jedi, except nobody asked that about Luke when he went to the magic swamp planet, and then he was there for, we don't know, like maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks, and then he can just sword fight the Dark Lord of the Sith, no questions asked. No one asked him where he learned sword fighting when he was hanging out with Yoda. You know, it's just, it's a lot. But yeah, any thoughts from you all?
You know what? I might sound like someone who is a birther here. You know, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but I demand to see Rey Skywalker's midichlorian count.
No, excuse me. No,
I want to see. I want to see her midichlorian count.
Sir, please stop.
Wow.
Please. Did you just call yourself a birther?
A Rey birther?
I was making a joke. I'm a midichlorian birther. I want to see those. I want to see those numbers to know how she became a Jedi. Well, if those numbers are less than 1,000 units per blood cell, I don't know how the fuck it works. Like I demand that she no longer be called a Jedi.
I mean, Star Wars really excels when it tries to explain the magic. I mean, everybody loved Episode 1, so
my thing is nobody gave a fuck.
No,
right? And it was
nobody gave a fuck.
First of all, wasn't it number one? They didn't plan for the first Star Wars to be that successful.
Oh right? No, they thought it would be one and done. Lucas thought it would be a failure. Yeah.
So like, who asked you? Like, okay, go to a damn forum and like, yes, you have every right to voice your opinions, but go to a forum. Go to something else and just like voice your opinions there. Like, okay, so it didn't make sense to you. I don't give a fuck. I never asked nobody how the Force works or how people got their powers. I just know they start lifting shit. Maybe I'm just here for the entertainment.
Right.
Yeah. And for clarity, this is for a book that's coming out. Howard Kazanajan, I don't know if I got that right. Producer's Life. This came out a week ago, and someone just found this passage. That's the wild thing about that.
And you can quote me on that. Don't nobody care.
Tell them I said that. They don't give a shit. They're laughing over there like Scrooge McDuck in their big pool of money going, fuck you. Like, they don't give a shit.
The only one that cares is probably George Lucas. Like, because he's sensitive about his this world he created. So, but like, come on now. Like, come on.
You mean when he's not watching videos of old train movies? He's not.
Oh my gosh,
he's so judgmental about that.
Please, if you need something to laugh at, go look up the Episode 1 documentary. And on the first day of writing Episode 1, George Lucas is just watching old train movies, laughing at them. Who knows if he's actually written anything for Episode 1? But he's like, how'd they do that? It's one of my favorite things.
George, we're about to start recording soon. Do you have anything for the script? I hate saying,
Marcus, next time you're writing music, you just pop on those old train movies.
Watch. If I make a hit like Star Wars,
you could spit some straight fucking fire after those train videos, man.
Why haven't you written anything, Marcus? George Lucas did this.
I'm not George Lucas
process.
Trust the process for a train.
Oh Jesus!
That's it. That's my news, though. Thank you for humoring my Star Wars.
That's fantastic. Marcus, what do you have for your piece of news this week?
All right, two things real quick. First thing, Jurassic Park stands the test of fucking time. You know
okay.
And I'll give it this: Jurassic Park 1 and The Lost World.
Okay.
Those two movies specifically stand the test of
They're so
time.
good.
Okay.
like Jurassic Park 1, if you ever get like they have the HBO, it's on HBO Max now. They have the trilogy, the original trilogy.
Yeah, they do.
That movie, man, I watched it twice in the span of 2 weeks because I was just like, I remember growing up with it, but it just hit. And it's like the graphics ain't bad, the storyline is solid. They don't waste time getting the shit. Like, it's a good movie. So I just wanted to just put that in there and just say, you know, Jurassic Park stands the test of time. Family Guy, though. Family Guy's entire back catalog is moving to FXX.
What?
So I know y'all missed this. I saw this when it was announced on Twitter. I am a huge Family Guy fan. I think Family Guy is funnier than The Simpsons. That's just me. It has a little bit of a darker, twisted humor.
Argument can be made.
I mean, for sure. I mean, without The Simpsons, you don't get Family Guy for sure. Just a different sense of humor, I think. 19 seasons of the animated, and this is from the Hollywood Reporter. So 19 seasons of the animated Fox comedy are joining the cable network's lineup starting on Monday, like immediately.
Wow.
So the move makes FXX and Freeform the exclusive cable home for the past seasons of the show, while Hulu, the worst streaming network ever, continues to be the show's streaming hub. And so it's going to be joining Bob Burgers, Cleveland, King of the Hill, and The Simpsons, Archer, all of that kind of stuff like that.
Oh my God. Okay.
There's something happening where, previous to this, there was a conversation. Seth MacFarlane was like, he wanted to get off of Fox. And I'm pretty sure FX, and a lot of that had something to do with what they were spewing over there, Fox News and some other people over there. I don't know who owns what over there, but this is just an interesting thing if you think about it, that 19 seasons of back catalog is just like that. I think Freeform belongs to Disney, right?
Freeform does belong to Disney, but
they belong to Disney through Fox, because remember, FX is where Fox would put its like, oh, they might say the word shit on air and you get to watch it on FX. And then they made it even darker. They were like, do you really like it when they say shit? Well, now you're gonna get like 3 shits because now it's on FXX. So that's kind of where they put their like racier comedy stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if Seth MacFarlane was like, Fox wants me to pull my jokes because it's
making shots at them.
It's primetime TV. If I go on FXX, I can maybe push the envelope as I'm writing a little bit more and let some of this stuff slide. So that makes sense. But keep going, Marcus.
Well, The Simpsons. Well, no, I mean that was pretty much the news. There isn't really a lot more to it. The Simpsons already is on FX or FXX, and they do marathons of The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when The Simpsons made a shift to FX or FXX, and I was like, man, it's a weird shift to have The Simpsons on here, and they went for marathons. And I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. So does anybody have any thoughts on that, or think they know where it's going?
Yeah.
I mean, so FXX is like, that was like Fox's attempt to be like, this is where the edgy stuff is. And it just kind of turned into like, hey, it's Sunday afternoon, Fantastic Four's on. Are you going to watch this or not? And you're like, yeah, I'm going to watch it.
I'm good.
I will. I will. And I feel like they found a lot of success with that branding with FXX. I'll look up what else is there, but I mean, there's a lot of familiar shows. I think that as we talk about Hulu, we've talked about how their interface is not great. Like, I may not be able to rewind on HBO Max, but like I can find what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Hulu, though, whatever. You know our opinions. You can't find. It just took me like a solid 30 seconds to get search to work, by the way, and like I couldn't. As you all were talking, I was like, "Am I doing something wrong?" No, I just clicked the magnifying glass, and then it's like, "Well, duh, start typing. Come on, you idiot!" And you're like, "That was not clear to me." In any case,
okay.
Sorry, right? Like that didn't make sense to me. I don't know who tested this. If you're listening, Hulu, but please change that. Long story short, all of Family Guy is there right now. So I feel like they're trying to build some type of back catalog, because I feel like for it to remain relevant, you have to have something. And I pay for Hulu. I will say that out loud. And the idea that I could just go watch any of Family Guy at any time, that is kind of appealing to me. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of stuff that you can binge there. Futurama is also there too.
I like Futurama too.
So like I appreciate that. I do think it's hard for Hulu right now of like, what's your thing? Like, what do you do?
What do you do?
This could be part of it. Like if you're trying to stow away some of those back catalog stuff, we've also talked before about how Disney Plus, they don't have like a type of like not mature or adult section, but they don't have like a Touchstone Pictures. That was their old masthead for like the more adult movies. And I feel like this is kind of seeing it come to fruition that we're gonna put it on Hulu if it's like a little edgy. Right. And I feel like you could find success with that.
Here I want to add this real quick. 2 points. So this was in August 3rd. Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane has taken to social media to air his grievances with his former co-workers at the Fox network, noting he wished that his hit animated series aired elsewhere, Tucker Carlson's latest opinion piece. So he said, MacFarlane wrote on Twitter, "Look, Fox, we both know this marriage isn't working anymore. The sex is only once a year. I don't get along with your mother. And well, I've been having an affair with NBC," where he signed a $200 million deal. So they're saying the reason for this is because this also got pulled from Adult Swim, which saved Family Guy back in the day.
Right.
So Family Guy is no longer on Adult Swim. And they said this is due to Disney's acquisition of the 20th Century Fox, their current cable channels FXX and Freeform, because they're syndicated episodes. They run syndicated episodes of the series. So I just want to throw that in there just for, I don't know if that has anything to do with the Tucker Carlson thing. Maybe that was in motion way before this thing happened. I mean, but for Family Guy, take shots at everybody. Right. And but I also know Seth MacFarlane, like, you know, if you stand by something, and well, I don't know. Anyway,
yeah. I mean, from my understanding of who he is that him as a comedian, as an artist, like some people are like, it's a little too late, I think, for Matt Groening, who created The Simpsons, to walk this back. I mean, there are 400 episodes of The Simpsons. Like, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it's
longest running TV show.
It is the longest running TV show. It's a little late for him to walk this back. Seth MacFarlane, on the other hand, has been the comedian and the writer and the creator who has always pushed the envelope and challenged the status quo. So for him, I think it's a little bit of an identity thing, right? Like, I have to, and if I don't say, no, fuck this, point. I want to go somewhere else, like, I'm not being true to who I am. So my guess is he's saying, you have my back catalog, but maybe this is a like Seth MacFarlane saying like, yeah, whatever my contract says, that's the end of it. Like, and once I'm done, and you can keep my back catalog. But as far as I'm concerned, you're going to, I'd be willing to bet that FXX is where Family Guy will die. And they put it there.
I think it's the opposite because The Simpsons have been running so long on FXX and all these marathons and Futurama. There are people who still want that kind of comedy.
Oh, sure.
And I think that people who watch FXX, it wouldn't still exist if people weren't watching.
That's
so
true.
It's one of those things. Like I think you can send Family Guy to this, and Seth MacFarlane has been holding out until he got out of this deal. Sure. Now he can really push the envelope now. And this attention it brings more attention to the jokes, to shows, to episodes. And now he can crank it up, even if it's for another 2-3 seasons. Like, Family Guy did well. No show is going to outbeat The Simpsons and go like, come on now. Like, that's impossible. But if you go 20-21 seasons, kudos to you. And like, maybe this is where it ends, but I think you can do a lot more over here.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a very fair point.
I agree. And I feel like what gets difficult is like Fox, the news corporation still exists and is owned by Fox, and all of the Fox entertainment stuff is owned by Disney and FXX. So I Googled this right before I started talking. So I guess like their main thing is FXX. Now I feel so dumb saying this. FXX is targeted at adults 18 to 34, while the original FX is targeted to like an older demographic, like people like me. I'll just put that out there. Like, it's more targeted to people like 35 to 54, which I can get. And I think you're right, Mark. I do feel like this is Seth MacFarlane has such, I don't know. He's so successful now that he's like, he can say whatever he wants, and people are like, okay, that's fine. You still make the funnies. You still make a newy funny, if I'm going to borrow a phrase. I feel like they'll let him.
You mean a fun funny?
A fun newy funny. Like, I would not be surprised if like Family Guy would become a Hulu original. Like, I think they'll keep going for the network TV stuff.
I think so.
I still think they'll keep rolling with that for the entertainment stuff, but at the end of the day, I that is something I can absolutely see. Like, Family Guy is so.
It doesn't require a plot. Like it doesn't require deep thinking to put together these episodes.
Oh, and you made a great point. It's it has kind of transcended The Simpsons, where Simpsons kind of still has this weird Gen X stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a whole other episode. But Family Guy at least feels a little bit more current and a little bit more in touch. So
like Mad TV, except in an animated form.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like it is.
Way to put that.
Yeah, I vibe with that. Yeah,
that's a great way to put that. So
Doug Wagner.
Cool. Here's what I got. I want to talk Venom 2 for a minute.
And
which we are getting here in about 12 days.
It's soon.
We are getting. But what I want to talk about is I want to talk about Tom Hardy and the fact that they did a screening for this movie over in the UK.
Love it.
And at this particular screening, Tom Hardy and the director Andy Serkis were there. And this was at Sony's Fan First event in London. Right before this fucking thing started, Tom Hardy just says the following to the crowd. There is something, possibly, at the end of this movie that you might see that has become something of a tradition in these movies. What you see here, when you leave here, let it stay here. Will you promise me that whatever you see at the end of this movie during the credits, you will let it stay here and not tweet it? Well, you want to know what happened? Those motherfuckers tweeted it because this was a fan event, not a like reviewer, like professional event. So they went, no, we're going to tweet it.
They're not bound by anything. Yeah.
Basically, Sony went running around all of last week trying to find all the places to like pull all of these tweets down, and they're buried. I haven't been able to find any of them.
Okay.
But you can, if in theory, there may be a couple out there that he missed about what they saw. But the rumor is, especially in light of recent interviews with Andy Serkis,
Spider-Man appears.
A Spider-Man, not which Spider-Man we don't know, but a Spider-Man appears in the post-credit scene of Venom 2, hinting at a future crossover. Andy Serkis even went on so far to say, I think it's very much in the future that we are able to get, and this isn't talking about a Tom Holland Spider-Man crossover. He said, I think it's very possible that we get a Spider-Man crossover soon. So
you know what that means? Andrew Garfield is coming back.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. So it's a little bit of the speculation train, as Brian Roush would say, a huge grain of salt here, but it is absolute.
He would also say, "Boy, howdy,
boy, howdy, grain of salt here."
I love
we need
Brian.
Stickers with our catchphrases.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what we got, and that's kind of where we're at. So I was just kind of curious on thoughts on the news surrounding Venom 2.
Which part?
All of it. Whatever tickles you the best.
Here's my first part. Tom Hardy, you cannot trust people. You should know this. You
never said shit.
We live in a world where people have been talking about Spider-Man everything for the past year. Since Endgame ended, maybe, possibly.
Yeah.
So you should know you cannot trust people in general. They're gonna blow anything up. Tom Hardy took a picture with a Spider-Man Far From Home cap. And they blew that the fuck up.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
They were like, he's in it.
They was like, oh, we know what this means. And it's like, in reality, nobody knows what the fuck it means except the director and the people in the movie.
Yeah.
Right. The second part, Sony's working overtime to bury anything that is like Spider-Man related, because they've had to do this like twice now, where they've had to go on this run where they have to remove whatever somebody's putting out. Like there was a deleted scene of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. It looked like a scene from Far From Home. They went and tried to delete all that shit. Somebody tried to make a fake video, like, oh, this is why this is a Photoshop video, and everybody was like, well, this is a fake video trying to throw us off the trail. So it's like a whole it's a whole thing. I would just enjoy the fucking moment.
I agree.
Everybody wants to be the fucking first to just reveal some shit. But just enjoy the moment. I would have been ecstatic to be like, yes, Mr. Tom Hardy, I will keep your secret.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Mr. Venom himself is telling me. I'm sure.
Have you seen this man? Did you see that man They must not have seen that man in The Dark Knight Rises. That motherfucker would have bench pressed your ass into yesterday.
He
like
was
it
big.
was.
He was big.
He was huge.
You will not reveal what this episode scene is.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about the plane?
Like, like all of that top to bottom.
Devin, like, can you please back up from the microphone? I can't understand what you're saying.
Okay, but anyway, they must not have seen him in that or anything else where he had to put on weight to basically look bulky, because that man is scary. Like, he would go there on you.
He goes all in for his
he will go sicko mode on you.
Yeah, and I think he's kind of underrated too, to be honest with you.
I would agree with that.
I think he's a phenomenal actor that goes all in with the roles that he picks. And from past reports, he loves Venom. And he is very much involved in the development of this character, which I was not expecting the first Venom to be as good as it was.
I was not.
The second has to surpass. I mean, they did what they were supposed to. They went to Carnage. You did exactly what you were supposed to as a sequel. You give the people what they want. So this is Sony's bread and butter. If they cannot have Spider-Man solely for how much longer, who knows? This is their bread and butter. Them trying to develop this Spider-Verse without a Spider-Man, I don't think that that's going to work. You need a Spider-Man.
You do. You're going to need to do that at some point in time, because that's the next big battle between everybody. That's the next thing people are going to be clamoring to see. So I completely agree. Yeah, I wouldn't have really necessarily. I'm glad that they did a fan event. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think you should have never kidded yourself that fans were going to be like, you don't want us to tweet it?
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to tweet that shit.
Well, I'm also trying to figure out if there's like a Streisand effect happening here. Like, I do believe Tom Hardy. Like, I don't have a reason to distrust him at this point, but I also feel like there's some snappy marketing guy or lady person who's like, hey, tell them not to do this, and then watch Twitter. And then they like sit back and put their sunglasses up and they like fade into the back. And like,
the point.
Part of me thinks of it because like,
that was a fucking Zoom meeting where they were like, well, how are we going to keep everything quiet? Tom Hardy's like, I don't know. I don't want to say anything about him. I just want him to enjoy the movie. And then you're right. Like, fucking glasses guys in the back, like, hear me out. Just hear me out. What if we told them not to? And they did.
Because to me, it would not be a spoiler to me at all. And maybe that's because because I've been waiting for this. Like, because like what, like exactly like Marcus said, I don't feel like you can confidently have Venom just as a standalone character without Spider-Man. And if you do, then he just becomes a hero, which is fine, but that's not what drew people to Venom. But so I'm wondering if that's happening. As an aside, I would like, with all the what if stuff happening with the Marvel series, I
still have not watched it.
You should watch What If. With the implications of Loki, I think that it's narratively, it's so easy to be like, well, Venom's in this universe, he's not in that universe. And you're done. And you can cast whatever Spider-Man. If it is indeed Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield, it's probably not Tobey Maguire.
It's not. It's definitely not Tobey. For sure.
You know, I feel like you could make a really cool universe where Spider-Man is like the second tier character in that dynamic between Venom and Spider-Man. And I think that's something worth exploring. But yeah, so that's interesting to me. We'll see what happens. But yeah, my big takeaway here is like, did you really want people not to say anything about it? Or did you say that knowing we would talk about it? Either way, I'm amped for the movie.
Bread and butter. Tom Holland is, I believe, Disney's moneymaker.
I think he absolutely is.
I genuinely believe that Spider-Man, Tom Holland, in that series for what?
Brian, what did you say?
He's so charming.
Oh, I thought you said he's so cute, though. I was like,
he is. He is a cute man.
I was just expecting that.
Yeah.
No, he's so charming.
I don't know. Hopefully, maybe they cast a new Spider-Man. Also, new Spider-Man game coming out. Spider-Man 2 with Insomnia. Like, that trailer came out. So it's like, they're feeding off of this. So
everybody.
Did you watch that trailer, Brian?
Yes, I the moment it came out, I was at work and someone pinged me and they were like, "Have you seen this?" And I was like, "No." And I closed my door. I turned on the sound. And I was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna blow my mind if it's coming out next year." And then they were like, "Probably not next year. It's probably gonna be a little bit down the road, 2023." And I was like, "That's fine. I'll wait. That's fine.
Gonna be a minute.
I'll wait." So like here I am being like, I don't know about Venom and Spidey, but here he is in a video game and I'm like chomping at the bit. So
yeah, there you go.
Congrats. But yeah, I'm amped for that game too. So but yeah, genuinely excited for this movie. My expectations were like on the floor for the first Venom. I had no interest in seeing that. I waited for that to come to streaming. That was back in the old days
about it, but it was good.
Of the 60 to 75 day window, theatrical release window. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, that's what I have. And that, I think, will do us for news this week, because we had a jam-packed episode. Unless there's anything, gentlemen, that you have left to discuss for this week.
No.
All right. Well, then let's move on to plugging. Brian Roush, or no, Marcus, what do you have to plug for this week? I changed it up. I went with Brian last week, so I'm trying to spread the love.
That's fine.
I was like, do I have something to promote that I don't know?
You don't. I feel like I went with Brian last week.
Y'all know what it is. Make sure you follow the mantra, both literally and mentally. Follow the mantra at __ the mantra on Instagram. We are doing a love fest. We are continuing our love fest today. We showed love to the Doug Wagner on our page. So go over there, visit, show some love to the page, share that. You never know who's gonna pop up next. But in your life, make sure you follow the mantra. Never offended, always humble. You never know what we're gonna do. We are a team of many talents. So music on the way, clothing is on the way. Hell, who knows what we might do next.
Yeah. All right. There you have it. Brian, what do you got to plug?
As always, thelovenerds.com. Go check out all of those wonderful lifestyle things that you need in your life. It is fall. By the time you listen to this, it is fall. There's a lot of good fall recipes on there. So go check those out. Also, I'm going to plug my TikTok account at Rogue Roush on TikTok. Just talking about we're talking about Star Wars still. Don't worry. We're still talking about Star Wars. So yeah, go check that out. I also recently talked about this news on my channel too. So if you want to go interact with it there, you totally can.
There you go. That's fantastic. And here is what I have. Join our Patty family. Consider becoming a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/filmsinblackandwhite. We love turning this stuff out for you week in and week out. And we would love it if you support us. So thank you to those who have. And please consider supporting yourself. Also, I want to plug our our TikTok page.
Like Doug's doing it. He's working at it.
Films in black and white.
It's hilarious.
Things get silly, and I enjoy it. But it's also we are doing movie conspiracy and fan theories over the course of this week, and they are interesting. I'm just gonna leave it there. So head over there to check out those.
Doug has found his niche. Ladies and gentlemen.
I may have. Gentlemen, we have a 3-step process to success. Brian, the irony cake is going to be thick. Brian, what's our first key to success?
How do you pronounce it?
I'm taking a breath here, y'all. Coyote. There's clearly an E. There's right there. It's fine. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. Like I get it. It just you read it.
It's about the spirit of it, Brian.
It's fine. I respect the coyote. I respect the coyote. It's not the other. So
it's not.
Anyway, read a book. Maybe you'll be like me and you'll be like, hey, I learned something new. And you know what? I'd like to learn more about it. And it's not like a Google search thing. Because I know you know who I'm talking to if you're listening to this. Like you Google search it and you're like, oh, I don't find the answer I like right away. I guess I'm not gonna learn about this. No, just go get a book and like you can just learn all about it. Like it's great. It's like more than a Google search and you don't need your phone for it. It's great. So go read a book about coyotes.
You should listen. There's an interesting thing. If you say that anywhere that's not here, it won't make any sense, and everybody will look at you like you're crazy.
That's true.
Look, I'm learning.
Yeah,
I'm learning.
so-
I'm learning the
yeah.
culture.
Yeah. It gets even more weird, Brian, when people start saying live the Yote life, because it's I mean, in theory, it's live the Yodi life.
Only in theory, though. Don't start repeating that shit.
Please don't make that a thing. Step 2, drink some water. Look, y'all, summer is hanging on with all 10 of its fingers, and it is hot. And so make sure it was hot. Yes, it was hot yesterday. It was hot the day before. So just make sure you drink some water and stay hydrated. And even then, stay hydrated. Otherwise, your skin is going to dry out and it's going to be just a whole thing. So just make sure you drink some water to stay hydrated. And here we go. Step 3. Marcus, what do you got?
Step 3. Listen, I know that fall is coming Wednesday. I understand that. A cool breeze is running up the crack of your ass. But you still have to wash your ass. Okay. Yeah. The rules have been the same since the beginning of this podcast.
They've not changed.
They have not changed. And that means that the message is still not clear. And that's okay. True. Perfectly fine. We are here to help you and guide you on this journey. And so I think that you just have to make your best attempt with what you have and the resources that you have. I'm not going to be specific about what you get. Sometimes you got to get that Dollar Tree soap.
True.
Sometimes you got to get the cheap stuff. Whatever works for you. Sometimes you got to use shampoo as soap. Don't do that continuously. Just do it until it holds you over because you forgot to go get soap from the store. But just wash your ass. That's all you got to do.
Important. Got to do
wash your ass.
That is
try a loofah, like a cork loofah, or something. Put a little strength, put a little oomph on that, like because your hand ain't getting it done, so you gotta put a little oomph on that.
Yeah, and your legs. Make sure you wash your legs. That's my hill. I'm dying on. Wash
the heel of your foot.
Oh,
that thing is cracking. Like
wash your legs, please.
Yeah, you gotta, you gotta get that going.
Yeah. That is what we have for you all this week. We are happy you all could join us. Thanks again to Shannon Cole, the executive director of the Vermilion Cultural Association. That was super great information she shared. Support your local theater. We'll be back next week with another news episode because we are taking a smidgen of a hiatus from the movie train that we were on. So we will be back next week with a jam-packed movie episode. And in the meantime, stay safe.
And the between time.
Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch y'all next week.